MovieWeb.com.
I understand that this film is the prequel to The Scorpion King. How far before the original does this one take place?
It goes back to Dwayne Johnson, The Rock's character, as a kid growing up, and kind of how in their society they make the transition from at age 6 to going away to Scorpion School, basically, and learning how to be a black scorpion, and how he gets out of school, and I'm the Scorpion King of that era, and how I kind of adversely affect his life.
Tell us about your character Sargon and what it was about him that drew you to this role.
Sargon's kind of a megalomaniacal king who thinks he's a god, and has kind of made a deal with the devil, and to have this kind of absolute rule. So he's not a very nice guy, which was kind of fun to play, the character, and get to be the demise of a lot of people.
You obviously don't need much physical training, but in what other ways did you prepare for this role?
Well, I think the interesting part was obviously being on the sets and being in Cape Town, South Africa for the shoot, but wearing the costumes was interesting, getting fitted, and how all that worked, and then swinging around a big double-headed battle axe was interesting, and something I had to get used to.
What was it like to work with Michael Coupon? Am I saying that right? Did you tease him about being the blue Power Ranger?
Yeah, I would have never. Yeah, obviously the Power Rangers wear those costumes, so would have never picked him out. But he told me that, and it was something. He was proud of the fact that he'd spent a lot of time pulling off that character, and he had a more traditional martial arts background, I think, that put him in that role, and ultimately put him here as Matthias in this role, and. His background in capoeira and all those things was interesting contrast to I think Sargon's physicality and the style that Sargon had as a fighter in the movie.
Coming from the UFC, was it difficult to maintain the realism of the fight sequences without making contact with the other actors?
We had that issue a couple times, both with my stunt double and with Michael. I think there was one point where I actually had to throw a back elbow and I hit Michael in the face, which made it a little easier for him to sell. But I dropped my stunt double one time in the sparring scenes pretty hard. But he too is a fighter, and that's part of the job. Is I think learning to sell a punch or kick or whatever the sequence is, but not tear up your partners too bad.
When Dwayne Johnson starred in the first film, wrestling was at its prime, with UFC beginning to gain momentum. Now the UFC has earned its audience, and you're starring in this installment. Do you feel that we'll continue to see a trend among fighters transitioning into acting?
Well, I think there's the potential for some athletes in general, and certainly some fighters to make the foray into trying their hand at acting. Whether and myself included, whether or not we can pull that off is kind of the question. And I hopefully am headed in the right direction to get more jobs and better acting roles and be able to sell those.
Which brings me to, is there anything you can share with us about upcoming projects?
Working on a 2-hour pilot for Spike TV that's kind of a new action drama series. Hopefully will become a whole season. And then I'm attached to Mandrake the Magician, which was supposed to shoot in the spring, but because of the strike is now kind of resetting, and hopefully will happen before the end of the year. So excited about those.
And finally, what do you think the fans will like the most about The Scorpion King 2?
Well, I think the action. That's what people like about these movies. I think you get to see a different time period, and that's always cool. The costumes and the action is what people really like.
Okay, that'll do for MovieWeb.